no.
Mind the gap.
So this is a print that caused me a great deal of problems, and in the end I had to do a remix of a remix. By that, what I mean is we have right, this is the original design, and what it is, it's a case that goes over the 3D printer. It also holds a Raspberry Pi so that you can run Octoprint. It has handy places to put your tools. You see this one, it's got some glue sticks and various bits and bobs. This is a different view, and then this is a better view. You can see down the left hand side things like your Allen keys and your spanners, which you don't use too often, and they're small and fiddly and can be easily lost. Now the problem I found with this, it was difficult to print because it's all in one piece. This is how it will print, and you can see there's a lot of parts that will go straight across. If you look underneath, you can see there's a hole. So you need to print lots and lots of supports, which is obviously a waste of plastic. But also this large tall piece here, because it can't bridge across. When a printer prints a layer that goes straight across, if there's nothing for it to stick to, the hot plastic is just going to fall straight to the bottom. So you need to print lots of support, which is basically a lattice system, and then you've got to remove that at the end, and removing support material from this is quite difficult. Now I did find this Remix here, which is pretty much exactly the same thing. However, the difference being they've actually cut the bottoms off, so you can print it all in one go, and then you just glue those bottoms on. Now I did print these on a previous print, which is why I didn't put them in the video. There we go, and there's another view of it. And you can see it's exactly the same, but obviously now it goes straight down. There's nothing across to print, which doesn't cause so many problems. Now, I was unhappy with a couple of elements. One is that where the octopi, let me have a look at the original one. So the octopi, I don't know if you can just make out at the top, you've got a picture of an octopus there, and you can see you've got 3 ports. The octopi slips underneath there. Now first and foremost, you've got this blue USB cable. You see how he's got it curled round and round and round, and it's actually quite difficult to keep that neat. And also on the right hand side you've got the power supply sticks out. The problem with there is because you can power down the Raspberry Pi, but then there's no facility to switch it on. The only way you can turn it on is to pull that plug out and put it back in. And of course the problem with that is that every time you remove a plug from a socket, you risk a little bit of damage. So of these 3 compartments on the right hand side, I can't find them, there we are. This front one, I don't actually use that too much. So I went into Thinkcreate and I redesigned it a little bit, and this is the result that I've got. So, whoops, sorry, I've moved it, I didn't mean to do that. My bad. Right, so the third section has been blocked up, but I've placed a hole in there. Now I went out and bought a switch, but I've blocked that hole up and just left enough space for a switch. And then on the side, I can't get this to move. There we go. Right, so on the side I've just popped a little bit of a hole, and then another hole just there on I don't know if you can see it on the left hand side. I am moving my cursor, but as I'm recording this I don't know if the cursor is showing. So the USB cable will go into that hole. It will then wrap inside this area, which there won't be anything in there, and then it will come back out this side and it will pop into the USB port. Secondly, so there's the room for the switch. And then what my plan was to cut the cable on the power cable on the Raspberry Pi, just the one cable, and then we'll extend that around the case. That will then go into this box here where the switch is, connect to the switch, and then run back out to continue along the into the Octopi. Okay, so I actually then did all the soldering, and I had to adjust a few little areas, and I actually did this live on Twitch. And the funny thing was, I mean, it took me about 2 hours, and I put the length of time down to the fact that I've never soldered before. I've been watching lots of YouTube videos, and I felt confident enough to give it a go. In hindsight, I'm really glad I didn't say, yeah, I know what I'm doing, I've watched loads of YouTube videos, because watching YouTube videos and actually doing it in real life is 2 completely different things. So I am happy that I said I've built up enough confidence to give it a go. My soldering wasn't perfect. In fact, it was probably enough to do the job is probably a really nice way of saying it. However, the job got done and I can only get better. Obviously, because I was doing it live on stream, obviously that's going to slow me down a little bit, because I'm asking questions, people are asking me questions. Remember, with my Twitch stream, it's a two-way thing. I'm learning and I'm hoping to pass on what I know. But in the end, the job came out quite well. There was a couple of little issues I had. I did have a little small gap that I didn't fill, but the print is completely functional. And I also forgot to take into account that the SD card reader, because this case actually blocks the SD card reader port on the printer, you need to buy an extension. Now, I'm not a big fan of these mini SD cards. They're just too small and fiddly for me. Now, when I made this, you can see a white one on the stream. That was the first draft that I printed a while back, and I bought a mini SD to mini SD, and that the slot on the side, that's what that is designed for. But I actually accidentally broke the SD card reader, so I bought another one, and I forgot to take it. I actually decided to buy a mini SD to SD card, what I call a proper sized one, but forgot to take into account that because it's bigger, the holder will be bigger, so it actually doesn't fit. So what I've done is I've modified it a little bit further. I've done a little bit of actually got a solder iron, and I just burnt a little line in the top, and then I'm actually going to glue that SD card reader to the top, so that will go in next to the switch. That's not a problem, and obviously, like I say, mainly because I'm new and I'm asking questions, so it did take a while. So it took me about 28 hours to print the main case. That's not taking into account the time it takes to print the 3 bases. They were approximately 2 hours each, so we're looking at about 34 hours worth of print time. The total cost of this is around about £6, and I think that that's really good, because if you bought something like this, you wouldn't get it for less than £10 or £20. The soldering, 2 hours, so we're talking about coming up for 40 hours. But the project that I get out of it at the end, I think, was well worth it. So we'll just carry on playing this for another minute or so, and then we will finish up with a picture of the finished project.